What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about some official Modern Warfare 2 information. So this is some information that Call of Duty themselves have shared about it. They shared not only about the new game, but also of course Warzone and a whole bunch of different stuff too. So first off, they say it's time for a Call of Duty special briefing. You've got all the intel you need headed into Season 2 and beyond. They say, let's start with a look ahead. COD 2022 is a sequel to Modern Warfare 2019 and being designed with a new Warzone experience, both led by Infinity Ward. There's a massive evolution of Battle Royale with an all-new play space and new sandbox mode, and a new engine powering both the new game and Warzone. So let's pause right there for a moment. It's interesting that they just say Warzone here. They don't say anything in any of this about Warzone 2. They just say, oh, new Warzone, Warzone. They don't say Warzone 2, right? That's still a leak at this point. Keep that in mind. Rolling into Season 2, our team is prioritizing quality of life changes that allow Warzone to be more accessible and less frustrating for our community. Over 30 improvements are coming with next week's season launch, plus many more bug fixes and issues resolved. Let's talk about Fov Slider. Adding FOV on console in Warzone creates major performance impacts for older gen console players. Our goal for Warzone is to be a performant experience on all platforms, so we do not plan to implement an FOV slider on console at this time. That is unfortunate. It's just like, dude, it's frustrating because, I mean, as the community, we've known about this for a long time now, right? We've known that, okay, the reason why there's no FOV slider is because the Xbox One and PS4 cannot handle it. But the thing is that the community understands that, but the community is like, okay, well, what about the new generation consoles? What about this new next-gen consoles, the Series X and the PS5? Like, how do you have a PS5 that you still can't run the game at, like, a PS5 version of the game, right? There's no official PS5 version of the game. You're still running it technically in backwards compatibility. So why can't why can't we have a PS5 version of the game where you can have 120 FOV, where you can have, like full 4K visuals and all this stuff, you can fully take advantage of the PS5. Why can't we have that? They haven't said like anything about a new generation or new version of the game for these new systems. And, they continue to do that at this time. It's like, okay, well, yeah, we get old gen consoles can't handle FOV slider. Alright, that's fine. What about these new gen ones? They still avoid that. So it's unfortunate. I mean, they did say at one point recently though, they're like, yeah, a majority of our player base is playing on the base Xbox One and PlayStation 4. They're not on these new generation consoles. So it's like, okay, even though a majority of your player base is still on that, why do you still have a negative gameplay experience for the people who do have these new generation consoles? And it's like, they can't even claim that it's like an advantage thing, that if you have a PS5 you have an advantage by having an FOV. Well, PC players have an FOV slider, and so what's the point there? Like PC players getting an advantage for having an FOV slider, but console players can't have it at all? It's like, dude, just put an FOV slider on the Series X and PS5 versions. There you go. I don't know. Next thing they say here, we don't really speak directly to every request in official communications, but know that we see your tweets, videos, and comments. We are reaffirming our commitment and ensuring our dev teams have discussions on these concerns before solutions, when possible, are implemented. Pretty interesting. I mean, it's kind of curious though that they're posting all this stuff. So basically, they're saying, we hear you about all this stuff, right? Like, we hear you. We are listening. Another thing is Infinity Ward replied with a GIF on when Call of Duty started with their let's start with a look ahead, just of kind of the intro from the reveal trailer of Modern Warfare 2019. Kind of cool. It doesn't really tell us anything about the game, but I don't know. It's very interesting though that they posted all this stuff. Like this was supposedly the giant thing that all the content creators were like given access to. So speaking of all those content creators, let's see what all the content creators had to say about this. So I'm going to be just reading this information off from Charlie Intel. They posted a ton of stuff about this. So Activision had a call with all these creators. Of course they posted that whole thread thing about, okay, this is what's happening and such, as well as they posted a thing about like a whole blog post about all this stuff, which they kind of talk about a lot of this stuff, but I mean, in reality, the blog post doesn't say a whole lot. A lot of this information we're really going to be digging into this video is from these content creators that actually were included in a call for it. So here we go. let's start this out. They say Modern Warfare 2022, it's a sequel to Modern Warfare 2019, new engine for MW2 and Warzone 2. Game plus new Warzone will be built together from the ground up. Warzone will be a massive evolution of BR, and there will be a new sandbox mode. Next thing, in regards to Warzone and Warzone Pacific, Caldera, when they initially released this new version of Warzone, they said, we messed stuff up. We broke it. We're not happy with it. No excuses. They say Call of Duty leadership acknowledged the current state of Warzone is a mess and vowed to fix the issues starting with updates in Season 2, which they also did talk about. They said they're including like 30 plus or whatever updates of like quality of life improvements. They say, regarding the Fov Slider, we don't have confidence we can maintain frame rate on last-gen consoles as last-gen is the biggest player base. Console Fov Slider would be like adding a slider that says, here's how to slide down your frame rate. Next thing, Season 2 brings many quality life improvements to Warzone. Armor plates refill full plates instead of damage, mantling improvements, parachuting improvements, stun fix, aim assist scaling fixes, nerfs and buffs, as well as gas mask updates, which I think that's a huge one, dude. They should have done that one when Warzone freaking launched, but finally it's here. They say developers admitted it was embarrassing to launch Caldera update in December and then have it broken for weeks. They say that Season 2 update has many fixes for console performance, buy station issues, invisible skins, voice chat issues, and more. Yeah, I gotta admit, Warzone Pacific was kind of a nightmare when it released. Like, to be honest, like to me that was a perfect time. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna switch over and I'm gonna play Halo Infinite because this freaking game is broken. And even casual players, everybody knew that Warzone was broken. You could literally see people through walls just by playing the game. You weren't hacking or anything. You literally just load into a game. You could see people through walls. Literally, entire buildings would not load. Even on PS5, the game looked like it was straight out of like PS2 era games. Like, it was horrendous. But going back on topic, they say Warzone was intended to be an extension of Modern Warfare. Then it became popular and integrated two games. We found ourselves in a situation where we got caught up and putting a lot of energy in to fix it. The game was bloated and hard to find what was causing bugs. Interesting. This is something I've talked about when Warzone first released. I'm like, dude, why is Warzone a part of Modern Warfare? Like, they had to have known, okay, this is, we want this to kind of be like our new Battle Royale. Why did they include it within that game? They should have learned their mistakes with Blackout. They should have had Blackout be a separate free-to-play game instead of included in Black Ops 4 as a part of the $60 purchase. Like, yeah, it was, a good reason to purchase it, but nobody's going to go out and purchase a $60 game for a Battle Royale. It was just simple as that. So, then there was all these issues with trying to have it, like, free-to-play. We have free-to-play weekends and stuff. Giant mess. They should have learned from that, and Warzone from the get-go had it a separate game. They can still run on the same engine, still use the same stats and stuff, and, like, assets, but literally just make it a separate game. I was saying this clear back then, instead of having, part of the same game, because that's how we ended up with, like, the game being, like, 400 gigabytes in size. Stupid, dude. They should have done that from the start. But it looks like that should hopefully be changing with Warzone 2. The same Infinity Ward's co-studio head, Pat Kelly, also said that what's coming this year will be disruptive in how ambitious the new content is. They should have admitted they screwed up with aspects of the current Warzone and working to fix how the games are. During the call, it was hinted at their original feature set to allow players to set matchmaking parameters about who they matchmake against, like platforms, inputs, etc., but no confirmed release time or period for this yet. That's another interesting thing too, because before Warzone came out, they talked about this and they're like, hey, so basically, like, with cross-platform, how we're gonna do cross-platform is that you'll be able to only get matched up against people who are using the same input. So you only get matched up against people with controller. It doesn't matter if you're on an Xbox or a PS5 or whatever, you are only going to get matched up with controller players. You can get matched up against PC players if they're using a controller. If you're on PC, you can get matched up with only mouse and keyboard players. You can still theoretically get matched up with a console player if they have a mouse and keyboard plugged into their console. That's how it was supposed to work. It's supposed to be based on your input. But you could still party up with people on opposite inputs. So if you were on console and using a controller, but your friend was on PC with mouse and keyboard, you could party up with them, but the lobbies you would get into would be the same thing. It'd be mixed lobbies, so you could still also play against people with mouse and keyboard. There was supposed to be a giant filter like that, so that way people who are playing on controllers don't just get stomped by mouse and keyboard. But they even came out and they said all this, like, this is our plans for cross-platform. But then it never ended up actually happening. So I don't know. I mean, I think that hopefully, though, they would actually make this work because, I mean, there's just so many times, dude. I think it's just kind of ridiculous, though, that you get, people with mouse and keyboards, ridiculous PC setups, just absolutely destroying somebody who has like a base PS5 or base PS4. So, yeah, I don't freaking know, dude. But, yeah, it would be nice, though. I think that would be good. You could actually change matchmaking parameters and stuff. That'd be kind of interesting to see what specific parameters they have there. Next thing is that they say the Warzone leadership said that they're interested in a ranked play for Warzone, but they have to, quote, do it right. And it's about balancing about the timing of it. That's interesting. I mean, yeah, like, all these tournaments in Warzone are cool, but dude, I've always thought, how cool would it be to actually have a tournament of legit all these players together? So you get like a tournament of 100 people or 150 streamers and YouTubers and people all hopping into one Warzone game and playing against each other. Instead of them all being in separate Warzone games playing in like 4-man squads and then just based off like what kills, like yeah, that's still a cool concept. But I think it'd still be cool if you had them all in one single battle royale battling that out. But I don't know. I mean, that's kind of regardless of this ranked play. It'd be cool to have a ranked play. You could finally be like, okay, I'm actually this good at Warzone, and you have a rank to prove it. Because right now, ranks are meaningless in Warzone. How many wins do you have? Kind of meaningless. So, I think it would be great to have ranked play. But for some reason, they say they're interested in it, but they're not quite sure or something. I don't freaking know, dude. Weird. They say when asked about the invisible skins in Warzone and why they don't just disable or remove them, the said skin until it's fixed, developers said it's complicated as you just can't take away a skin somebody bought so easily. Very complicated situation. Makes sense, yeah. If somebody purchased it and you take it away, you're like, oh, we're fixing this. Well, then they spent all that money for nothing. Then they say the devs are aware of a 120 Hz issue on Warzone on Xbox Series S and X. It is a frustrating technology issue caused by Microsoft SDK platform change, which update was built on. Working on the fix, but it's taken time. Also said not many people have 120 Hz monitors, so reaction was interesting. Raven also confirmed that Season 2 update should fix issues accessing Modern Warfare multiplayer, including the MP pack installable issue. Holy crap, yeah. If you guys don't know what that's talking about, Modern Warfare has been pretty much broken. Like, Modern Warfare 2019, you could not, load into multiplayer for, the longest time. And it was, completely broken. So, should be fixed. They say they also confirmed that Infinity Ward is leading the development of both Modern Warfare 2 and the new Warzone experience. It seems that Raven is a support studio for Warzone again for the new experience. That could either be a good or bad thing. I know some people are like, yeah, the original Warzone when it was just Infinity Ward was the best. And then as soon as Raven, hopped over, it went downhill. I've also heard people say the opposite. So, next thing, some quality of life improvements for Warzone coming soon in Season 2 and beyond. Pickup/armor drop satchel if already owned. The ability to pick up and drop a gas mask. The ability to control your resurrected state, crouch or prone when downed. And the nerf to gas canisters. Interesting. They say the developers also confirmed that they believe that prioritizing quality of life improvements is important, that the state of Warzone right now is more important than new features. The devs do care and they're actively listening to everything. So basically, they're focused on fixing the game rather than adding new stuff to the game. Because, you can add new stuff, but at its core, if the game's still broken, it's still broken. People aren't going to play it, no matter how new the content is or what, they add in. So I think it's good. Yeah, you focus on fixing the core game until it's in, a good, fun, playable state, and then you add more content. So that's good. They say in regards to the FOV slider, they further said that we want everyone to have fun, and adding an FOV to PC sort of opened this Pandora box of console players wanting it. Internal testing just showed that if they added it, they might as well call it a how to drop frame rate slider. Next up, Infinity Ward's Pat Kelly stated that when Black Ops Cold War was added to Warzone, Warzone didn't feel like Modern Warfare anymore, but also didn't feel like Black Ops either. The game just existed. They're working to ensure the future of Warzone does not feel like that. That's interesting. I mean, when Cold War was added, so when the weapons were added there, because, you're still Verdansk. They later had, Verdansk 1984, but, I don't know, it was interesting, though. I mean, I get what they're going at there, but at the same time, the game was still the game. Warzone was still Warzone. So, I don't know. Interesting. Plus, I think Warzone should be its own thing. It shouldn't be based off of one game. It shouldn't be based off of, Modern Warfare. It should have been this one title where they have a Modern Warfare map. Whenever an Infinity Ward game comes out, they have an Infinity Ward map. Last year with Treyarch's game with Black Ops Cold War, they should have had the Earl Mountains map. And then this year, of course with Vanguard, Now they have Caldera. They should have individual maps added to reflect the main title game releasing that year. It should be a mix-up and a mashup of all these other games. It shouldn't be focused on, all of Warzone should be based off Modern Warfare. That's garbage. They say further, the new engine is being developed by Infinity Ward for this year's game, plus Warzone is the foundation for the future. They stated clearly that they even have a singular base engine. They want Treyarch games to feel like Treyarch titles. Modern Warfare to have Modern Warfare feel. That is important. Interesting, there's leaks suggesting otherwise, but that'll be another topic for another day. Warzone was just meant to be an extension of Modern Warfare, and then we integrated Black Ops and then Vanguard, and now the game is bloated. The devs admitted that because there's so much going on in the game, they literally have to have problems finding what's even causing the bugs.
Infinity Ward's Pat Kelly says, "We don't always get things right, and it takes a long time to fix some things which they want to change. We mess things up, but we break our blank backs to try and make the best game we can." I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that the devs are trying, but I feel like people just, look at the end game and go, dude, it's broken. There's a disconnect between what the devs want and the final product, and that's not necessarily on the fans. The fans are just like, hey, your game's broken. I don't think that's necessarily, the devs need to take that to heart, because we get that they're trying. We just wish that, hey, the game's broken, try to bring it to their attention and to hope for a fix, as soon as we possibly can. They said, and also interesting, they said the Gulag was added to Warzone because in internal tests they saw campers were taking down players who love to run around, so they wanted running gunners to have a second chance. Interesting. Also, the developers have stated that last-gen players have the biggest player base for Call of Duty and even showed us a graph of them actively tracking crash rates on consoles and how they are monitoring and working to fix it. Pat Kelly also said that he's extremely excited for this year's game. It says there's a lot in it. Also teased some big updates with the new sandbox mode. If you don't know what they're referring to there, that's the DMZ mode. I have a separate video on the channel already up about that. He also said it doesn't matter what I hype up when we will all be the real judge of it when it launches. That's fair because, this is a developer, this is his job, so of course he's going to hype it up and be like, yeah, this is like the greatest thing ever created, because it's his job and, they're trying to sell a product at the end of the day. Devs also said that actions speak louder than words, and they're working to make updates starting with Season 2 to fix the game, and that they will not make excuses for how messed up it is right now. Also stated that launching Caldera in December before holidays was a mistake. They also confirmed that last-gen consoles are currently the biggest player base for FOV when asked why not next-gen FOV Slider. I talked about this earlier. They said, we don't want to further increase the skill gap. He also said FOV Slider benefits mainly high-skill players. Okay. Before I talk about this, let's continue on. I see that his high skill comment already getting traction. They stated that high skill players understand FOV Slider and how it impacts the gameplay, while casual players don't, and bridging that gap is a problem and a challenge in and of itself. The devs also said attempting to balance between high skill and low skill players isn't easy, and that we can't nerf low skill players' ability just to please high skill players, and it's a complicated balance to get it right for everyone. Okay, now let's discuss this. So basically, I don't know. They basically say, oh yeah, we don't want to have it on next gen because increase the skill gap for higher skill players. And it's like, okay, but doesn't having it on PC already do that? So what you're saying is, oh, we're not going to give it to next gen console people, even though we totally could and it'd be just fine, just because that they would get an advantage. So it's like, what? So you're purposely worsening the experience for the millions of people who bought these new systems? That's just so dumb. And then all this talk about, oh, we don't want to ruin the experience for low skill players and stuff. And it's like, okay, but low skill players don't understand the FOV slider because they haven't really had it explained to them. I mean, I've logged into Cold War and there's a message of the day that tries to explain what the FOV slider is, and I'm like, okay, that's a good start. How about you include a little video about it? Publish a video on the Call of Duty YouTube channel and be like, yo, this is what FOV slider means. Pay some freaking YouTubers, pay Exclusive Ace and all these people, hey, this is exactly what FOV does, and this is why you should change this setting. If they were that casual that they don't know what FOV is and how it would benefit, then they'd have no idea, why they're getting crapped on because they don't have, a greater FOV. They wouldn't care. So, in all honesty, plus, currently, it's already like that with PC players. PC players are the sweatiest players, and they have the FOV slider. So it's once again, okay, well, what about PC? They already have it, so why is there a skill gap between that? You're literally making it an increased skill gap between console and PC, rather than you can bridge that gap by having an FOV slider on next gen at least. So I don't know. It's just, dude, it bothers me, this whole sentiment about, oh, like, we need to look out for low skill players. It's like, dude, how about you give them the tools to succeed instead of capping them and being like, no, you cannot enable an FOV slider, but PC players can, but you cannot. You know, even if like they're saying like, oh yeah, you know, it tanked their performance, at least give people the option. I mean, some people would rather tank their performance if they got like an advantage of having an FOV slider. Give people the option at least. Like, I'm sick of them making these decisions for people and for the players. You know, when players want choice, having a choice is not a bad thing. You know, you can have it off by default or whatever, but at least give people the choice that, you know, if casual players or people, you know, they have no idea about FOV, then sure, they can leave it off and they can have great performance. But if you have players who are like, okay, I understand the trade-off here, I understand performance for FOV, okay, then I can enable that setting. Or you can even, like they said, like, oh, it'd basically be a slider for performance. So maybe you're not, you know, going to slide the FOV slider all the way freaking maxed. Maybe just up it just a little bit. Yeah, your performance might tank like 5 frames a second, but for some people that might be worth it. So I just don't understand this whole situation, dude. It's incredibly frustrating for me because I primarily play on console just because that's my preferred platform, but it's just frustrating to play against PC players because they have an inherent advantage that the devs refuse to give to console players. So hopefully, I don't know, with Warzone 2 that'll be fixed. But lastly, we have like a couple more tweets. They say Pat Kelly said that he has no interest in boost jump / depth packs. For those wondering, that you know, Infinity Ward isn't going to be returning to the advanced movement. They also said that the developers confirmed and implemented a fix for flying cars at the end of January and other anti-cheat efforts going forward. That was hilarious. I'm sure you guys saw the TikToks of that, of flying cars, and they played like the Harry Potter music. That was absolutely hilarious. And then lastly, they say something they forgot in their chat with the devs was that when asked about Vanguard zombies camos in Warzone, somebody reminded them it took 6 months for Cold War zombies camos to be added. They said the bar is literally on the floor for us this year to beat 6 months. What? Are you kidding me, dude? They're like, oh, well, you know, it took us 6 months last time, so if we get it done in 5 months, then that's okay. Like, yeah, that's, I mean, it's obvious. Yeah, that's the bar you have to meet. That's, you know, that's not a hard goal, right? I don't know. I just don't understand how, like, these developers, it's not like they have to wait for the new game to come out before they can start working on this. Like, they can literally just team up with Treyarch before Vanguard came out and be like, hey, what camos you guys putting in for zombies this year? Okay, well, let's go ahead and add them into Warzone so far. That way, literally on day one release, they can do it. For some reason, it's like they don't even start thinking about half these things until months after, which, I don't know. I mean, I'd rather them fix the game than add camos, but still, it's like there's so many things that just get lost from year to year across all these games that they add back in later, like they like totally forgot about it. It's like, dude, this was a feature in literally the last Call of Duty game that came out like 6 months ago, and you forgot about this feature. Like, what? Like, one thing that immediately comes to mind is like the clear all new items thing. So, you know, you got that stupid little green circle that always shows up in your creative class. They always seem to forget to have an option to clear that, but it takes them like 6 months every time a new Call of Duty game comes out to add that option back in. It's ridiculous. So I would just like them to finally just keep building on the last game rather than you put out a new game, you update it, you put out all these great features, and then they literally go back to square one and they try and do that all over again. No. Keep on with that same thing and build off of that. That's what we all want. We want them to build off of it, not reset. They literally do 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's like all they're doing recently. But I mean, it's a good start. There is communication here. That's a good thing. But still, I think we got a long ways to go for Vanguard and Warzone and just the franchise in general before it really gets into a good state where I think the community would be happy. Because, I mean, if the game works and it's fun and, you know, they keep adding new content to keep players entertained, I mean, what more can you ask for? But right now, we're kind of getting none of those. So until they deliver, we just kind of got to keep, not necessarily complaining, but just keep letting them know what we want to see as players and what, they can improve upon. Because like they said, they are listening and they are taking that feedback. It might take them 6 months to implement it, but, maybe, hopefully, eventually they will get around to actually doing that. But there you guys go. That was a long video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this in the comments down below. Thank you so much if you stuck around all the way to the very end. I truly do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.